We are humans and we are created equally, and we all have some amazing contribution to give in this lifetime. And so we want to help draw that out of each other. Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Conscious investors. I don't know if this is going to be a podcast episode as much as maybe like those true confession moments. So I'm letting you know right now that this episode is going to be a little different, maybe a little controversial. And I'm not going to be apologetic about that. I've run through this. I didn't know if I was going to share this story with you. I'm already tearing up because it's just so powerful what took place. And so I'm going to share this with you. And this does tie in to what I told Karen on the trail, because I ended up saying this to Karen on the trail, which I told you in that episode recently. I'm like, I'm not going to share what I actually said here because it requires this backstory. And I didn't know if this was going to serve you well, but yeah, we're gonna go into this, and I'm just gonna ask you to be gracious, to ask you to restrain from severe judgment, and if you've been tracking some of the other podcasts I've been on, I actually did a podcast episode with a friend, a couple of friends. We actually did a podcast episode on word usage. And what word usage is appropriate and correct in the world, and how do you go about determining that? And maybe this is going to play more into that. So with that said, I want you to be aware, I think a backstory, if you're new to the Conscious Investor podcast, there are some critical things that actually play a huge role in this. One, I am a huge Jesus lover. My faith is the foundation of my life, like through the roof. I love Jesus. Done. That's like just such a done deal right there. And I was raised with faith. And it's pretty cool because I was raised with faith, but I have my own faith. Like sometimes people are raised in a setting, in a church environment, and it becomes more a religion versus a relationship. And it becomes more of a culture than it does, this is how I choose to live my life, a lifestyle. Right. So, I have a relationship versus religion. I have a lifestyle versus a culture. I'm sure we could go like super deep into all of that, and I'd welcome those type of conversations. And with that said, part of that lifestyle culture, part of that upbringing that I had definitely lends itself to a lot of rules and a lot of ways for proper and wise living. And as we mature and we have more life experiences, we oftentimes will kind of catch ourselves. Okay, is this a rule that is to guide my life, or is this a rule that humans gave me? Is this really in line? Because here's the thing is, I love people, but ultimately I'm going to look at what Jesus said and did. So like that's going to be the ultimate catalyst of change in my life versus, oh, well, the Kardashians are doing it this way, so I have to do it that way. It's like, well, that's cool for them. How does this align with what my man Jesus, my savior did? Like, does this represent, well, and in that teaching that I grew up with, and I think a lot of people, even if they didn't grow up in a Christian home or a religious home of some sort, I think a lot of people in my generation were still taught that, there are certain words that you didn't say. Now, there were a percentage of us that were taught, you would never refer to somebody's bottom as their butt, like that was a B word, and it's like, okay, so you've got that threshold. And then you have, the kids where the S word was stupid, or, and then as you get older, you realize, oh, these words are so much different. I'm doing all of this because I said something to this woman and it came back in a very, very interesting way. I was speaking at an event, powerful, wonderful event in Denver recently. And at the end of the night, it's, fairly late and people are standing in the hallways and we're talking. I see this absolutely beautiful woman. She's walking out with her husband and then they stop. The husband starts to walk to go have a final word with somebody. Apparently, positive word. This is a great environment to be in. So I walk up to her. I left the little group I was speaking with, and I walk up to this woman, and I believe in telling people if they look absolutely gorgeous, I want to tell them that they look gorgeous, And so I told this woman, I said, "Hey, I just want you to know that you look stunning. This dress, you make this dress shine. You look absolutely gorgeous. You are glowing. And I just want you to know that, you look really amazing." If you don't go up, especially ladies, it's harder for men. Could you imagine if some man just walked up to some woman and was like, and granted, hey, I welcome it. You want to come up and tell me I look beautiful, I will receive it. But most men would be uncomfortable just by nature of, how a lot of women would respond these days. And this woman, her eyes welled up with tears. And she's like, "Oh, no, it's fine." And I'm like, "Wow," she said, "Thank you." And I'm like, "Well, it's true. You look absolutely stunning." And it's important that we encourage each other in these ways. And women, we go out of our ways to look really great. And so I think it's great to say, "High five, you rocked it," perfect 10. And she ends up telling me this story that she was watching a family member, a little one, and it came about that this little one had a skin disorder. Sometimes kids get whatever, and that happens, but she wasn't aware of it. Unfortunately, the child's parent was aware of it and never passed that information along. And it turned into this whole skin stuff on this woman. And she was explaining that her face until very recently had just been very swollen and puffy, and she'd just been uncomfortable. And, I think even gentlemen, you understand, if we have something, and we feel like it's not coming to an end, it can be very discouraging. And so she's sharing this with me. And then she proceeds to say that she's sitting in the truck. They lived local to the event. She's sitting in the truck with her husband, and she didn't want to come into the event. And her husband said, I'm not going to actually say it just because I know sometimes we have kids around, but her husband said, "F it, let's just go." And she ends up coming into the event. And that at the end of this event, after being there all day long, I cross her path. I say this, and we have this encounter. And I did not know that this was this huge deal. And isn't that the case that most of the time in life, we don't know what someone else is experiencing? We lack that depth of human connection and that opportunity. And so I look at her, and we're wrapping up the conversation, and we're smiling, and she's much lighter at this point. And then I tell her, I said, "You know what? Tomorrow, when you're in the truck, you don't even wait for your husband. You open that door, you look over him, and you say, 'F it, I'm going in.'" And I said it, and I still say it. See, I'm still, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm smiling as I'm saying this, because you know what? It's that matter of, are we empowering other people? You see, I'm not saying it to be crass or vulgar or, in a mean way. In this case, this is like a way that is like, makes it funny, creates some lightheartedness, and gives her this opportunity to be like, "Yeah, I can do this. And I'm going to do this. And I want to show my husband that I'm strong. I can go for this. And I'm not going to be trapped anymore." So let's flash forward to the next day. So the next day at the event, I'm speaking with someone, having a more real estate oriented business conversation. And this beautiful woman walks by once again. And I just tapped her on the shoulder. She went by and she saw me. So we saw each other, right? And she was like, I said, just want you to know you look great. And she was smiling. She wasn't just smiling. I swear she's like walking like a comet, like a comet that goes through outer space and everything. I mean, she's just brilliant and glowing. I swear she was like 5 inches taller, and she's just walking with confidence and pride. And I am just like, look at you. And she looked at me, and she's like ear to ear smile, eyes just sparkly and glowing. And she's like, yeah, you know what? When we got here, and she's just saying this with the joy and enthusiasm that we sometimes see in children, right? She's like, I got here and I looked at my husband. We parked the car. I looked at my husband and I said, Julie Holly said, F it. And she gets out. Oh gosh. I'm like, what? Oh no. Okay, wait. I told her, I said, listen, let's, if we could, Julie Holly is over here and the words are over here, let's just, I'm so proud of you, and there's that whole, right? What just happened right there? That whole, oh, what would people say? What would people think? Are they going to change their view and their opinion about me? And I actually went rounds on that. And I thought, how does this represent who I am? How does this represent my beliefs? How does this represent my place and my contribution here on earth? And I'm sharing it with you because I think that's a question that most of us need to be asking. We need to be conscientious about what it is that we are up to and what it is that we're saying and what it is that we are doing. And was I saying something to be crass or rude or vulgar or to derail? No, I was empowering somebody. I was encouraging somebody. And so to some spectator that might come from other parts of my life, that might look like, oh my gosh, fell off the deep end. And yet when you see the result and you see somebody show up, there's nothing more exhilarating. Like that's just absolutely positively exhilarating. And that turned into this expression. I started to get, she inspired me. And while I'm not going to go around saying it, and I'm not going to get hats, t-shirts, stickers, and all of that say it, I just think how often many of us actually simply need to say, F it, right? And take the next action and beam and be sparkly and be happy, right? I think that word has changed and shifted meanings so much over the years. And so I'm not saying I'm not suggesting or being a proponent of going around using that expression. But what I am suggesting is let's be intentional about our life. Let's be intentional about why we're saying things, why we're doing things, so that we can bring out the best in every single person around us. What would the world look like? Because me saying that to her was very different than, somebody saying that and dropping fists, or I don't even know. I don't fight. I don't know anything about this, right? But it's very different than being combative. So regardless of what the words are that you are saying, are you willing to meet people where they are? Are you willing to listen and to see people for who they are and for where they are, what they're struggling with? And the words that people use to communicate to us, those are also words that we can use to access them. They're words that they already understand, that they are comfortable with. Sometimes we want to talk in our own dialect, right? Especially someone like myself. It would be really easy for me to get into what we call churchese or Christianese or whatever you're raised with. That can become its own dialect, and you speak, and it's like the subtext. Even people that get into real estate investing a lot of times they're like, syndication. What is that? Breaking things down into words that people understand so that you can support them and help them lead that next level life. I'm all about that. To make this go full circle, because I know a lot of you amazing conscious investors. I actually know a lot of you, and you're hearing this, you're like, oh gosh, Julie, I don't know. And I'm going to take this full circle with my faith. And it came up in a conversation with a couple of friends as we had our growth day. And I was sharing this experience and now I'm sharing it publicly. And I was, still contemplating, how is there value in this? And what is the value in this? And then my friend, she's like, I wonder what Jesus said when he was turning over the tables at the temple. I mean, like, do you think he was just being all gentle? Like, what were his words? And it does. I'm not saying that Jesus was using vulgar words or anything like that. However, Jesus always was for the people, and Jesus was always for supporting people and helping people. He never sinned, which some people would say that naughty words are sinful. So that gets into a whole different conversation. But again, I think the whole thing that I'm hoping that you take from this isn't confusion about faith and religion and things like that, but it's more about what words can you use to empower the people around you. We talk to little babies in little baby language, and we talk to toddlers and teenagers, right? How are we speaking to our peers and our colleagues? How are we speaking to fellow adults and community members? Are we speaking in a way that is so pious and so highbrow that they just simply can't, they're just going to feel lesser than? Are we really trying to make people feel lesser than and incapable by the language use that we are doing? Or are we allowing people to feel comfortable and using words that are easily relatable and understandable for them? Okay, I think I probably have gotten redundant at this point, and I apologize. I'm really curious what your thoughts are on this. So definitely shoot me an email. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'll be bold. Should I be so bold as to say leave an honest rating and review? Please use nice words. Okay. And do know, I obviously have not chosen specifically to use specific words intentionally. And to make this go full circle, in a previous episode, when I was talking to Karen as I was hiking up Mount Elbert, I did borrow this. I borrowed the expression because what that expression represented to that woman I was speaking to was essentially screw it, which I think most people are okay with that. Screw it. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be just fine. And that was the intention in that. That was a meaning, really the subtext meaning behind that expression, F it. And so, and that's what I ended up telling that Karen along the trail. Maybe we'll get struck by lightning. F it. It's going to be okay. So I want to encourage you once again, be mindful of the words that you were saying, be mindful of the people that you were speaking with, speak in ways that are encouraging and uplifting and that will build people up and not tear them down, that won't make them feel defensive and cornered and as if they are lesser, because we are humans and we are created equally and we all have some amazing contribution to give in this lifetime. And so we want to help draw that out of each other. And as you spend your week, I hope that you're intentional about drawing out the best in the people around you in every single interaction. All right. That's what I've got for you. As always, adventure belongs on the trail, not in your investing ever, and not in your personal development. And if you need support in either of those categories, please make sure to reach out to me, because that is my ultimate contribution to help people activate powerful lives, both financially and personally. And I do that through the apartment investing And through high performance coaching, there is space for you. And I cannot even wait to see you lead your next level life in every single way. Until next time, live big, love bigger. Are you enjoying this episode? Help spread the word by sharing the episode with a friend or family member. Because really, where would any of our lives be without other people sharing great content with us? Help spread the word by sharing on your social platforms and with those you care about. And remember, tag me at Happy Julie Holly.